At first, everything feels effortless. Too effortless. The conversations flow seamlessly. Their gaze lingers just long enough. But real love isn't supposed to feel scripted. There's something lurking beneath the perfection. Something subtle, yet undeniable. A moment of hesitation when you express yourself. A passing comment that lingers in the back of your mind. A shift in their expression so fleeting that you almost convince yourself you imagined it. You ignore it. You tell yourself you're overthinking, that love is supposed to feel this way. But if it's real, why does a quiet voice inside you keep whispering that something doesn't fit? The trap isn't set with chains. It's set with comfort, with familiarity, with a love that feels destined. And before you know it, you stop questioning, stop resisting, stop listening to the part of you that knows better. By the time you begin to see the cracks, it's too late. Not because you can't leave, but because you've already convinced yourself that leaving isn't an option. You tell yourself that all relationships have rough patches, that maybe you're just expecting too much. You rationalize the unease, dismiss the discomfort, silence the warnings that echo in your mind. And that's how it begins. Not with a harsh word or a raised voice, but with a quiet erosion of your instincts, with small, almost imperceptible compromises. Laughing off a comment that made you feel small, second-guessing your words before you speak, shrinking yourself just enough to avoid conflict. You don't realize you're changing. You don't see the walls closing in because they don't look like walls. They look like love, like devotion, like proof that you care enough to make it work. But love isn't supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. It isn't supposed to make you question who you are. Real love gives you space to breathe, to exist fully, to be seen for who you are, not for who you can become to keep someone else happy. So ask yourself, if this love is real, why do you feel like you're slowly disappearing? It never happens all at once. There's no moment where the sky darkens, no thunderclap that signals the shift. Instead, it creeps in quietly, so subtle you don't even notice. At first, it's just small things. A raised eyebrow when you mention a friend, a teasing remark that lingers a little too long, a pause before they respond. Just enough to make you wonder if you said something wrong. You shrug it off. You're imagining things, but then something changes. The laughter feels different, like there's something hidden behind it. You find yourself explaining things that shouldn't need an explanation. You hear their voice in your head before you make decisions, second-guessing whether something will upset them. You hesitate before speaking, soften your opinions, filter your words. Not because they asked you to. Oh no, they never have to ask. At first, you think it's just your mind playing tricks on you. The lingering glances, the subtle shifts in their tone, the way they react just a little too slowly when you say something important. You tell yourself it's nothing, that you're reading into things too much. But then it happens again. And again one day, you realize you're holding your breath before you speak. You carefully weigh your words, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of how they'll react. Fear of ruining the fragile balance that has somehow become your reality. The worst part? You used to be sure of yourself. Now every decision runs through an invisible filter. Will they be upset? Will this make them pull away? You used to say what you felt. This is what control looks like. Not force, not chains, but the slow, deliberate erosion of who you are. It's in the way you instinctively change yourself to avoid conflict. In the way you become smaller and smaller, until one day, you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. You thought love was supposed to feel like safety, but this isn't safety, it's survival. And you're trapped in a game where the rules keep changing, where the only way to win is to lose. So tell me, how much more of yourself are you willing to give before you realize the cage was never locked? Love is supposed to be simple, right? Two people meet, they connect, and everything falls into place. That's what we've been told. That's what we want to believe. But what if I told you that most people don't actually know how to love? Not because they don't want to, but because they never learned. Because what they think is love is nothing more than a cycle of control, fear, and unhealed wounds masquerading as passion. We live in a world that has poisoned the very idea of love. We've been fed stories where jealousy is proof of devotion, where suffering is romanticized, where the person who cares less holds all the power. Love, as we've been taught, is not about connection, it's about possession. About securing someone so tightly that they have no choice but to stay. About proving over and over again that we are worthy of being chosen. But love is not a war. Love is not about dominance, about who can care the least and win the upper hand. And yet, so many people fall into this trap, mistaking control for care, mistaking anxiety for intensity. They believe love means chasing, means sacrificing, means bending themselves into something more acceptable, just to be enough. But real love doesn't make you shrink. It doesn't make you afraid. It doesn't leave you questioning your worth at every turn. The truth is, most people don't love. They just don't want to be alone. And if you don't wake up to that reality, you'll spend your life mistaking chains for comfort, mistaking a cage for a home. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no dramatic moment, no single event where you realize you've lost yourself. It's slower than that, so slow, in fact, that you don't even notice it's happening. At first, it's just small things. You start second-guessing your words, hesitating before you speak. You tell yourself it's just being considerate, that it's normal to want to avoid unnecessary arguments. Then, you start filtering your thoughts, rearranging your opinions before voicing them, making sure they align with what won't cause tension. You convince yourself that this is compromise, that this is what people do for love. But then, something shifts. You stop wearing certain outfits, not because they told you not to, but because their offhand comment made you self-conscious. You stop talking about certain topics, not because they forbade you, but because their disapproving silence made you feel ridiculous. Slowly, your choices, your voice, your very existence starts to feel smaller. You start to forget what you want, what you like, because every decision now runs through an invisible filter. Will this upset them? Will they pull away? Will this start another fight? And then, one day, you catch yourself mid-thought, realizing you no longer recognize the person you've become. The fire in your eyes has dimmed. The confidence you once carried has been replaced with hesitation. And suddenly, you understand. This wasn't love, it was control. And the worst part? You handed them the power to do it, piece by piece, until there was almost nothing left of you. They tell you love is supposed to be passionate, that real love is intense, overwhelming, all-consuming. They say, if you're not fighting for it, if it doesn't make your heart race, then it isn't real. So when you feel the rush, the jealousy, the anxiety, the fear of losing them, you convince yourself that this is what love is supposed to feel like, that this is normal. But tell me, since when did love feel like a battlefield? Since when did love mean measuring every word before you speak? Since when did it mean feeling like you're constantly on trial, like every mistake could push them away? Love isn't supposed to make you afraid. It isn't supposed to keep you awake at night, replaying every conversation, analyzing every silence. But you've been taught that love is struggle, that if you let go of the fight, you lose. So you keep playing, you keep proving, You keep bending until you don't even know where you end and they begin. And all the while, you tell yourself this is just what love requires. But love isn't supposed to feel like survival. Love isn't supposed to feel like something you have to earn. Real love gives you peace, not panic. Real love makes you feel safe, not disposable. So ask yourself, if love is supposed to make you whole, why do you feel like you're falling apart? And if love is meant to set you free, why do you feel like a prisoner? Love is not a battlefield. It is not a game where the one who cares the least wins. Love should not feel like survival, where you are constantly proving your worth, walking on eggshells, or fearing that one wrong move will cost you. Real love does not demand that you shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It does not make you doubt your instincts, question your value, or trade your freedom for the illusion of security. Love should not feel like a test you are always failing, nor a cage. The truth is, most people don't know how to love. They confuse control with care, intensity with connection, and jealousy with passion. They love not because they want to give, but because they fear being alone. And if you are not careful, you will mistake Manipu. But here's the reality. Love should never make you feel small. It should never make you disappear. Love does not imprison you. It sets you free. So ask yourself, are you in love? Or are you just afraid of leaving? Because the only thing scarier than losing